Hello everybody and welcome to another of our PBR live sessions broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and we're also going to be recording it so we can post it up onto our Instagram TV. Today is a really special live session with an exclusive interview with a friend of POWERBOAT and Rig Magazine, Jan-Erik, who is the Creative and Innovations Director of Axopar and the founding partner. So we've got a really special hour ahead looking at everything Axopar. So I'm going to bring in Jan now, who will join us, and we can start the show. Hi Jan, thank you so much for joining us this evening and divulging everything about Axopar over the last few years.
Yeah, hopefully you get a bit of a deeper insight on what our brand is about and what the people behind the brand is all about. So thank you for having me on it. And first of all, I just want to say through our whole team, they send their greetings and congratulations and thank you for keeping up the interest in social media towards boating and creating the great content you're doing. So keep up the good work.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, we've thought that we really need to keep boating alive through this time of uncertainty across the world where people, when they were initially locked down, couldn't get boating. We wanted to make sure that we spearheaded that passion. And it's great. It's a great privilege for us to be able to showcase people like yourself who have been real innovators in the industry. And we hope that people will really enjoy getting a little bit of an insight, not only about Axopar, but a little bit about your history. And also when they see your boats on the water, they'll have a better understanding about how it got there. So I think the best way to start things off, obviously, we met originally in 2008, 2009 at Ribex,
yeah, something like that.
with a previous business. And obviously we've seen your brand of Axopar just grow throughout the years from 2014. But can you give us a little bit of background about you personally, the man behind the brand?
Yeah, well, first of all, probably need to start it that way. No man alone can start a brand. It's always about the team. It's always about the devotion of every people involved in the project. So it's more or less like a choir. You can try to shout as much as you want, but you get more power out of a choir. So, but let's say going a bit into me, more or less, I would say average Joe, more or less, a bit of boating background since my childhood. So I've been always found on a boat since early times. So let's say going really back, my father started actually building a glass fiber boat when I was around 8 years old or something like that. And he then at some point a few years later became ill. And actually I continued on building that boat, finishing it, making all the interiors. And I think I was something like 14, 15 years old or something. So it was a small boat, 30 horsepower, but it still had a front cabin and a steering house. So it was still, let's say, a typical Scandinavian commuting boat, which you were used to drive to the summer home. So that's more or less a bit of me. But yeah, all in all, I would say passionate outdoorsman. I really love being outdoors. I really love both summer and winter time. So people usually call us and it's a conversation more or less when people get to the notion that we're from Finland. And quite up from Finland, we're not the highest in Lapland yet, but I really love spending time up in the mountains. So I love the cold. I love the weather. All year round. Summers, of course, spend boating as much as I can, but otherwise, I would not call myself an adventurer in anything, but I really like snowmobiling in the winters.
I have to interject.
Yeah.
You say that you're not an adrenaline junkie that's an outdoorsman, but if I share the current photo that I've got up in front of me, I think that's
okay. Yeah. That's my winter passion. That is utmost the things that gets me living through any type of adversity or keeping pushing forward for anything new that we're developing. So just being able to get out in the mountains. I'm an avid free rider, so I take snowmobiles, mountain snowmobiles, and snow bikes up into the mountains, into the alpine. Of course, always well equipped with avalanche packs and having avalanche equipment on me and schooling, but still being able to be outdoors where there's really not that many people around, just enjoying nature as it is. And that is, I would also say, one of the great DNAs of Axopar, because this is exactly what we do also summertimes here in Finland. So this is one of my greatest hobbies in summertime. I want to take a kayak and I go exploring anywhere around our fabulous archipelago, which is actually one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites just because of its unique nature. So that's more or less me. I love being outdoors. I love what I do, but the boating is a passion.
And as well as the boating passion, the love of outdoors, you also had a career in the automotive industry, which will go on to the synergies between Axopar and the automotive sector. But you were involved with BMW and a number of brands across Finland as well, weren't you?
Yeah, more or less in the sense that I had a very close look into, let's say, the sales organization of car dealerships and all in all, how you create business and how the automotive industry in general was creating business and distribution for more or less, I would say, decades. And trying to have a look at how could we utilize the automotive knowledge that has already been used extensively on all the world-renowned brands in the car industry, and how could we adapt something like this into the boating industry on a very, very traditional boating industry, I might add.
Yeah, you're converting a cottage industry and a small scale, traditionally small scale, apart from maybe necessarily the American market, into a very slick operation. And I think we'll go on to talk about it a little bit more, but obviously from the outside in, you seem to have reached the holy grail of boat building with hundreds of boats worldwide, a fantastic dealer network. You're always the best hosts at all the international boat shows.
Thank you.
Your fans are very slick, and you're clearly a man that has a great eye for detail and a bit of a perfectionist, and I think that shows with the way that your team position the product, and it's been great.
Yeah, it's more or less, let's say it this way, people love me and people hate me at the same moment. Usually when we're going into engineering department, I really need to take care of explaining why we want to achieve a certain goal in our products, because it's one thing of creating something on the paper and something actually ending up as a usable product on the market that you will use for years and years. It needs to be functional from the beginning. So in that sense, I'm both loved and probably hated by somebody, because I'm keep pushing the boundaries, and our whole team keeps pushing the boundaries in order to provide better products for our customers and new boating experience, I might add.
Well, that's going to lead us on really nicely to discovering how Axopar was born, how the brand came about. I know you started in 2014, but we'll talk a little bit about that. So can you tell me how you went from a boating industry and the automotive side and decided, right, I'm going to create Axopar. And while you're playing that, I will position a video on the side, which is the first generation of the 28s, while you're explaining this.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Sounds good. So more or less, going into the boating industry, we really wanted to, let's say, first of all, going really, really deep. We wanted to create a boat that we love to drive ourselves and we love to use ourselves. And we always were thinking that if we do this right and we love our products, other people will hopefully also love our products. And that saved the birth of the generation 1 of the Axopars, because we have a lot of use of our products here in Scandinavia, where we use the boats daily to commute between, we have like small summer cottages that are usually something like a 15 to 45 minutes drive, always out in the ocean on an island. You usually tend to go there Fridays after work, any weather conditions, more or less. And then you come home Sunday evening, any weather conditions, back to work. So that we wanted a safe commuter that is able to cope with any type of weather you throw at it, but at the same time to be really, let's say, comfortable and enjoyable while driving. So that was probably the one thing we wanted to create out of the whole experience we got from developing the previous brands. We had them in our brand name itself. So three brands in the past, making up the result of an Axopar. Actually, now if we talk about Brabus Marine, that's actually a fourth brand following. But more or less going into the history, and I think you asked what set us apart of doing it. I would still say that the knowledge was number one, so that we got the knowledge from our success and our failures, and always trying to learn from our failures and try to avoid them in the next models or next developments you were doing. So in simplicity, what we learned from the previous brands going into the Axopar was more or less getting balls to do what you want to do. So we started creating a product that we ourselves would love using every day, and we felt that can cope with any type of conditions we put the boats against. And what was really surprising is that people actually followed this, so that the people love the product. And of course, there's always been development in between, but people love the product. We listened to what they loved and didn't love of the product, and here we are today. So 14 years all in all. So 2006, I think, started with the boating industry with Paragon, one of the brands we sold over to Nimbus Boats in 2008, and from there a few other brands followed. So 14 years gone in a blast, having fun doing it.
In 2014, when we were chatting, that you'd sold in the first year about 50 boats, which for anybody's first year in trading is very respectable, and mostly to the local market. But to a number of manufacturers, especially smaller, especially in their first year of trading, they'd be very happy with 50 boats sold. So did you ever did you plan from the outset that this was going to be a global brand, that it was going to be something that would be a quality product but a scalable platform?
Well, yes and no. You always hope, and if you can't base there needs to be a certain part of your business that still needs to be based on hope. Otherwise, if it's only economics, there is no passion about it. But the one thing, the 50 boats was really success and for us in the beginning of the times, because we launched the boat in February 2014, and to have already 56 boats made, I think we started serial production in April 2014. To have that at the end of the year would have made anybody happy. But it was more or less, we had a goal to be able to be producing more. And that was actually quite challenging in the beginning, because we needed to approach OEMs, suppliers, key manufacturers, that we have an idea, we have a plan, we have an idea how to execute it, but you need to give us high volume pricing, even if we haven't sold one boat yet. And there were some suppliers that said, no, come back when you sell 500 boats in a year, we can give you this price. And there were some OEMs and some suppliers that said, yes, we share your passion. Yes, we share your devotion. Yes, we absolutely want to be a part of this. And with these partners we started, and with these partners we are still in it today, enjoying the let's say the volume production out of it that came out of it eventually.
Well, and part of that growth is naturally going to be your dealer network, which clearly share the same passion that you do for your brand and the same energy. I'm going to be showing a photo now, which is of your dealer day in Helsinki when you launched the latest 2020 Revolution. But you told me earlier this is just one dealer.
Yeah, all the persons on this boat is just one dealer, and that tells you quite a lot. That we've really been trying to get strong dealers all around the world that have been in the business for a long time, that also has the dependability and trustworthiness of all our customers, because launching a new concept with a new brand in a new, let's say, dealership network, that would have been too much. So we needed devoted and dedicated dealers that had the customers for our brand. and were sharing the same passion as us. So this was a picture from the dealer days, Patrick Polsch and Bode Polsch team. So that just tells you how much it takes in order not just to sell a product, but also to keep the customers happy after you have taken delivery of the product, and also to keep the boats running, servicing, and keeping the customers happy for all the years they're going to spend on the boats.
Yeah, you hosted a fantastic event there, which I'll put up a photo. It looked like a real party of people that were clearly passionate about the exciting developments behind Axopar.
Yeah, this was an interesting event. This was done in a museum sheltered ex-train factory that in the 1800s were making trams for the Helsinki traffic. And we took this I think 10,000 square meters of space, and we just moved in all kinds of cool stuff in it. So you have a lot of more pictures you can actually show there. But we brought in, let's say, food trucks. We brought in Brabus trucks. We brought in Brabus cars, Brabus boats. We brought in dealers from. We have today over 100 dealers in over 50 countries. And I think we had on the dealer days from 35 countries, 60 dealers in total. We had all sort of Finnish hockey games. We had it was a really nice venue. So, of course, this was in November, so we needed to plan a bit for the weather. So half of this was done inside of the train factory, and half was done in the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Suomenlinna, which was an old fortress protecting Helsinki in the 1700s, where we used the boats as a base for our sea trials. So really interesting event, and we had a lot of dealers coming and a lot of press from all around the world to sea trial our products there.
So obviously we've shown some shots of this dealer day and the network that Axopar has developed. In those 14 years, I think when we last spoke at Dusseldorf, you were saying that you're about 650 units a year now. So it's a massive jump from 50 boats. And that was a real logistical challenge.
Yeah, I would say something around 650 boats this year. So in total, we have now produced over 2,500 boats. And these are distributed all around the world. So this also is a great show of strength of our manufacturers and suppliers, that they're able to supply us with parts and keep up with our product development, which is also quite rapid, because let's say no product is ever left alone. So that every year we do let's say like a model update, so that we can bring new functionalities, new options to our already existing range, also additional to all the new products. But yes, 2,500 boats out there, around 700 boats in this time. So I think we are today the biggest boat brand in the Nordics of a single brand manufacturer. And I would say the real big sea change happened in 2017, when we really got off developing the company to what it has become today, and getting really great people into the company. Our CEO, who has actually, we are not naming him as a CEO, like a chief executive officer. We're calling him the coaching example officer. So more or less, we don't have the typical militaristic setup of a very traditional company. Every manager in their own sections have their own freedom to make their own decisions and make their own results. So that I would say every manager in our company works as an entrepreneur within a company. So they all develop their own. That's really interesting to see when these marine professionals and professionals from other businesses actually start to, really glow and be able to develop their own strength, and that shows in the product. So really interesting development.
So I'm going to show a second video, which is of the Mark II 28.
Yes.
Following on from the Generation 1 that I shared earlier. And
yep.
So while this is playing, can you talk a little bit about the things maybe that you've learned along that journey as the business has developed and these new models have come into play, sort of the evolution of Axopar?
Yes, quite simply, more or less, the 28 Mark II is a perfect example on the knowledge we got from the Mark I, the knowledge we got from the Mark I 24s and the Mark I 37s, that we don't only look at one single model when we do a new update. We look at what did we learn on the 37 project, what did we learn on the 24 project, what are the things we're now getting feedback from our customers all around the world that this is how I would love to boat. And they give us the feedback. This is what I love about the Mark I, but could you please do something about this, this, and this? And this all, through all our dealerships and straight contacts with great customers, we were able to develop, I would say actually redevelop the 28 concept all in all, because there is so much that has changed from the Mark I to the Mark II. The Mark I was an exceptional good product, but everything going from hydrodynamics, drivability, handling, fit and finish, product, let's say product modularity in how efficiently we can produce a product that creates great value to our customers, so that creating a higher quality product with higher finishing and higher detailing without affecting the selling price of the product itself, so that we still stay competitive against any of our competitors out there. So that's a perfect example on the Mark II, and we continue to do that also on the Revolution 37. Again, just fusing the information on how we do, but always focusing 100% on the one key issue which we started in 2014, which was to create the ultimate hull, because the hull was everything what needed to take care of us going out to the summer homes and coming back in choppy, different sea states, and we never set about to compromise the hull, so that we really looked at that. Is actually, people have been asking, why does an Axopar look like it is right now? When you look at it, it's quite low freeboards, quite low silhouette. All of this was more or less from the basic the foundations of the concept itself, that we were looking at what boats are sold anywhere around the world, which boats are considered to be performance, reliable, and solidly built boats that handle great and are safe to drive. And we were just looking at rib boats, rigid inflatable boats. They had all of these concepts and benefits incorporated in them, but at the time they were comprising of 4 seats and a steering column, nothing else. So you couldn't have any type of accommodation, and they were only made for thoroughbred racing or thoroughbred boating. And we thought that, could we somehow get a rib boat hull-ish something to work as a commuter boat for us, so that we take the best benefits of a rib boat and we fuse it into an everyday commuter boat. And that's how the 28 came about. And that was the general concept of the whole Axopar fleet. And that is still what we continue to do ever today on all our future developments and all the revisions and new Mark IIs we're doing.
We've spoken in the past that you have I think you call it a platform design approach. And I see other builders who invest heavily in a new model, and they'll do a new hull design, a new deck. If it's a rib, it may have a new tube pattern. It'll be seed again with obviously a new power option. The boat is completely different from anything else in the design DNA in terms of all new moldings, but it will probably still be of a design that follows the rest of their brand. So they've got the massive investment of everything being new, but it still maybe looks like a model in their range from 6 years ago or whatever.
True.
You've kept that DNA of it being unmistakably an Axopar, but can you explain to people a little bit about this platform design approach and how you maybe look at things a little bit differently in your design?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was one thing that for us to achieve a value to our customers in terms of pricing and being able to provide a product that is by far superior to many competitors out there, was that we need to have the high volume. And in order for us to have a high volume, we need to understand how we can do a modularity and a platform of our product so that we can utilize as much same componentry on a boat as possible, but still giving the customers their own freedom by our option program and the modularity to spec and to get a boat that they want to use themselves. So that, for example, Axopar 28 is a perfect example how to start it, so that on all models, the hull, the stringer, the fuel tank, all the electrical wiring, the decks, all the option packages, everything that you see below the deck levels are absolutely 100% identical in no matter what you buy. If you buy the open, the T-top, the cabin, if you put an aft cabin on it, it's just a small part we change on the product to create the diversity and create the added value for our customers to be able to specify a boat they want. But for us, very important to have a high volume production, because through this high volume, it's not that we do things cheaper. It's that we can create a product that has higher repetition. And through this higher repetition, every assembly guy is repeating the same procedure over and over, which means that we also get a benefit of higher quality and higher, let's say, higher fit and finish to the work, because this is such a repetitive move for the assembly workers to do, which other boat manufacturers, and of course also the line. So we have a line that moves every day at 12 o'clock. So our second OEM has a perfect example of a train, so that we have, I think, 10 carriages connected like a train physically with steel bars in between the hulls. And 12 o'clock, there's a buzzer ringing, and at 12 o'clock, all the boats move one station forward. There is no exception. So if one station is a bit delayed, the other guys from the other station goes out and helps them out in order for the whole station to move. So they're all connected. So if one doesn't move, the other one doesn't, and that already creates a delay. So this type of automotive approach has made us the price point of the product, but also in a way to be able to create this benefit for the customer. And it doesn't come cheap, actually. So why many traditional boat manufacturers do a product the traditional way is because it's cheaper. For us to do the modularity and do all this engineering before we go into the production floor takes twice the time, and it takes twice the money. But once you do it and how you know to do it, then this creates the value for our customers.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting take, and I suppose also, it helps back, yes, to your automotive background and the way that you're thinking of merging those two skill sets. Talking about things all automotive, I want to talk a little bit about Brabus and Konstantin. Again, two separate stands at Dusseldorf, but both beautiful product oppositions. Can you tell us a little bit about how the Brabus partnership with the Bushmans and yourself came about, and while you're doing that, I'll pop up some photos for our viewers.
Yeah, perfect. So the Brabus collaboration is a really interesting one, and that really showcases when two great companies unite, you can actually create something unique. And this actually started with the late Buddha Bushman and his son Konstantin Bushman actually wanting a tender for their super yacht. And they had a look at our Axopar 28 and then following our Axopar 37, actually ending up buying one, taking it secretly to the Brabus factory, and they Brabusized the product. So they ripped out the interior, they made carbon fiber panelings, parts, new seats, new upholsteries, fitted bigger engines on them, which they weren't allowed to do, but still, hey, they did it. And the rumors came out more or less that there is something like this in the development, and just, let's say, getting to know them more actually developed into a friendship, so that this was a business collaboration beyond the business. So today, Konstantin and me and Daniel Krupik, who is the business head of business for Brabus Marine in Brabus, we became great friends, and we stay devoted in creating the ultra luxurious superboats that are out on the market. So it's a really good show of when two great people or the same values meet, you can actually create a lot of noise and a lot of result from it also.
Do you think that when you and Konstantin and family are out away, maybe from the corporate world, that you have some of your best ideas together on the exciting future in that partnership?
Definitely, yes. So I would also say that the best ideas always happens outdoors. So you can work efficiently behind a computer screen for, I would say, 4 to 6 hours. After that, you really need to get some fresh air. You need to get down to basics of core values. And in that sense, actually, which is quite interesting, now people working from home, but we see the most creative results actually now happening when we talk about new ideas on the product. So it's really interesting to see this develop.
Oh, great. Well, I'm going to show a video of Brabus. It's a promotional video that shows the scale of their business. You kindly invited me with Konstantin to have a look around the facility, and yeah, it's a stunning complex, and they really are the best in their industry, aren't they?
Yes. So just very simplified, Brabus is a 40-year family-owned company run by really passionate owners, family behind it. They create the world's leading Mercedes-Benz supercars. So just to very simplify you what a Brabus car is all about. So when Mercedes-Benz creates, for example, an E-Class, you get an E-Class that is, I would say, 50,000 euros, outputs 200, 250 horsepower at maximum. Then Mercedes has the AMG branch, which takes this E-Class, turns it into a 400, even 500 horsepower sports car, costing 150,000 euros. Then Brabus takes the AMG and makes this into a 600, 700, 800, or 900 horsepower supercar that is anywhere around 200 to 300, 350,000 euros. So we're talking about the top of super luxury performance cars money can buy anywhere around the world. And they've been doing this very successfully for 40 years. So we're talking about a huge company delivering cars, I think, to 106 countries worldwide. And something they can't tell you, they are also, of course, responsible for creating one of the most luxurious cars in the world, which they can't actually mention. But there is a close collaboration with Mercedes-Benz, if I say that one. So it's a really interesting company. They always keep pushing the boundaries in new technology. All their engines, just to give you a very interesting analogy, when they take an AMG engine, they scrap 70% of that AMG engine.
I was about to say that, yeah, my trip around the...
70% are their own engineered componentry they put into an AMG engine blocks to create the Brabus. So it's this high level of supercar manufacturing. You can't call this tuning. You can't call anything else. This is supercar manufacturing at its finest.
It's the only time I've ever seen somebody rip out AMG leather and go, no, they've got it's just phenomenal, the attention to detail and the level of ability to bespoke a car to the client's needs.
Yes, this was more or less the same thing we wanted then to do with the boats, exactly the same procedure. So let's say, and actually now today, when we know that this collaboration is a long-lasting collaboration, the 37 Revolution is a perfect example that from the drawing board, already we knew we will do an Axopar 37 Revolution, and at the same time we will do a Shadow 900. So from the drawing board, everywhere into development work, power outputs, hydrodynamics, everything, these two brands were coexisting between each other and creating the automotive platform. Like you have a good example, Volkswagen Audi Group. They have cars like Seat, Skoda, Volkswagen, moving up to Audi, moving up to Porsche, moving up to Bentley, and moving up to Lamborghini. But at the same time, they most likely utilize one or two platforms to make 7 different car brands. And that's the same approach we wanted to do with the Axopar, and that's what we are continuing to do also for the future.
So talking about then the Brabus Marine side, with the companies merging, I'm going to show a couple of videos, the Shadow 500, the Black Ops, and then I'll show the Dusseldorf video. But can you talk to everybody about, when we get an Axopar standard boat, and then how that becomes a Brabus line, and then obviously a full-fledged, full Brabus spec vessel.
Yeah, absolutely. So more or less everything that is about the Brabus product is all about the same core values you have on their supercars. So always, to put it in very simplified words, a Brabus car is always bold, black, and beautiful. I think Buddha used it at some point. It's fast and expensive. So that's more or less the analogy of what everything is, because everything they put in the product is top-notch technology, top-notch, all detailing, the everything they do. And this is exactly the same we do with an Axopar, so that we, on an Axopar product, we consider this product to be the premium car analogy. So let's say we are an Audi that can offer, we are the Audi of Axopar that can offer the Audi for the price of a Volkswagen. And then when we go for the Brabus, we go for a higher specified, let's say we're in the borderline between Porsche and Lamborghini in this sense, or Bentley, I would say actually is closer with the Shadow 900, so that we are not attempting to make the Shadow 900 a super boat that is, I don't know, blasting 80 or 90 miles an hour. We're making a Grand Tourer of all Grand Tourers out there. So 900 horsepower power boat that has the capability of doing over 60 knots. But many of our customers don't drive the boat 60 knots, but what they really usually use their boats for, and also the Shadow 500, they cruise the boats for 40 to 45 knots. So they are fast moving between A to B. And usually we see the Brabus boats being used as tenders on super yachts, along with Axopars as well. But the Brabus boats usually end up having the owner of the super yacht skippering the boat himself. So this is his boat. The yacht is no fun driving. He wants a fun boat, so he ends up buying a Shadow 900. Captain and their crew fills up the boat with refrigerated stuff, drinks, whatever on the boat in the morning. The owner of the yacht gets on board with his family, drives to a secluded cove that the captain has plotted out for him in advance. They go there, they go scuba diving, snorkeling, water sporting, whatever, by themselves without probably one crew member maximum. And then in the evening, the super yacht has catched up with them. So it's more like an adventurous explorer, how we see and the Grand Tourer, how we see the Brabus Marine products.
And I think as somebody that's raced boats around the world, when you traditionally get into either a high-performance leisure boat or any vessel sort of 60 knots or over, you really need to have something that feels secure. Otherwise, you're riding on a missile that's out to kill you. And but you've managed to find that sort of magic blend of something that feels very stable. It's got good beam. The hull is very predictable, so that people can still have a very sporty, racy feel. But their loved ones or the crew, yacht crew, or whoever's using the boat still feels, rather than on top of it, they're in it, they're secure, and they're able to enjoy their high-speed run in a Brabus.
Absolutely. So that is not only the core value of a Brabus product, that is absolutely number one core product on an Axopar as well. So let's say the Axopar is a boat that we love going 50 knots, and that's it. And the Brabus boat, we can do 60 knots. But the sheer, let's say, what we see with super car owners driving the Brabus, they also know the limitations and the G-forces that are in play when you start to go into high speeds. So that when you have a supercar owner, doesn't need to be a Brabus car owner. We see a lot of any type of supercar owners, or actually we see it also the other way. that somebody who don't want to have a supercar, they actually end up buying a super boat, which is the Brabus. So they still want to be affiliated with the core values of a Brabus product, but they probably don't have even the Brabus car itself, but they want the boat. So it's, let's say, with Brabus, we go on car shows, selling boats, and with Brabus we go on boat shows selling cars, and it's a perfect collaboration between, because the customers are really much the same and they share the same values as us.
That's what I was going to lead on to next. I was going to play the Dusseldorf video from this year, but while that's playing, do you find that you have a lot of new boater clientele that are Brabus customers, that Brabus is bringing in a new type of buyer to the Axopar Brabus family?
That's actually true. We have a few really, really good examples of supercar owners. Usually when you own a supercar, you don't own one, you own 5, 10, 15. And we have a lot of customers. I wouldn't say a lot, but I would still say we have the 20% of supercar owners that have never owned a boat ever in their life. And this is where a strong distributionship and a strong dealerships is all about. So we have dealers that have sold Brabus boats, but not only selling the boats, they have taken care of their customers' mooring. They have organized their own skipper's training for the customer. They take care of the boat while the customer is away, so they store them at their marina. More or less, the customer itself, only he needs to do is send a text message or call the dealer. I'm coming on Monday. Make sure the boat is ready. The dealer makes sure that the boat is cleaned, every cover is off the boat, the refrigerator is stuffed with all their favorite drinks. They already take care of bookings at the restaurants. They take care of mooring for the night already apart. So it's more or less like a VIP package that some of our dealers do to these new boaters that have not been on the boats before. And this actually is really good because going into boating can be a bit intimidating. You don't know where to go, you don't know who to call, but our dealerships are able to cater for the customers to do that, and that lowers the bar to buy the superboat much lower and easier.
Great. Well, I'm going to ask the next question then. That really, how have you seen since you started, and then obviously with Brabus? How have you seen that develop with your customer base on the Axopar side? So as the boats have got slightly larger and you've expanded across the world, have you seen new territories open up and your boats used in ways that you may have not thought of previously?
You mean on due to the Brabus collaboration, you mean, or just Axopars in general?
Just, well, either. So super yacht markets and charter.
Yes, I would say in the sense that Brabus is opening up an opportunity for us to interact with different customers. But also what we see developing now is we get new users of our boats. And one thing which is really, let's say, we have a broader spectrum of users on our boats. So one thing, for example, we see our boats being heavily used as super yacht tenders and super sail yacht tenders. And what really is heartwarming is that we see a lot of renowned world-class sailors having Axopars as their own boats. So let's say, good example, we're doing quite a lot of professional charter all around the world. We have VIP shuttles for luxury hotels taking the customers out on the boats because they want a good platform that is diverse for people to spend time on board, but also safely taking them to places and have an enjoyable time on board. So Sydney Harbour Tours is a very good example. I don't know how many thousand hours that boat already has on its clock, but we have a lot of boats that has exceeded 2,500 hours in, let's say, professional use. As long as they service and drive responsibly, it's been a really workhorse. But the sailing industry is really interesting. So we did the America's Cup the last America's Cup in Bermuda. We had a close collaboration with BMW, where we had two of our boats for them as their VVIP customers' boats, so that they had, I think, 250 50 customers of their highest VIP customers all around the world joining in on the America's Cup, following the race from the water. And actually one thing which was really also nice to see is that Ben Ainsley of Bar Racing took his own 28 cabin along with his competitive sailboat all the way to Bermuda also. So it's been an interesting development. And let's see, it's we haven't stopped yet. So it's interesting to see how far we can go with this.
Well, people obviously are familiar with your boats and have probably seen them at the boat shows with your fantastic stands and exhibitions that change each year. But obviously, due to COVID-19, a number of events across the globe have been postponed or cancelled.
True.
So can you talk people through what the current 2020 lineup is?
Yeah, I would say so. That is actually quite true. So we have had a lot of postponing of the boat shows, which of course then changes that we need strong dealers that take care of their own shows. So and in new innovative ways. So we have had dealers walking through customers on FaceTime even. We've had webinars, so that is why we do this. We feel that this is something natural now. If we can't showcase the product, we still need to make some noise about ourselves and spread our word. But for us, the main focus for 2020 is by all definitions the 37 Revolution that we launched in Düsseldorf in January this year. And that's really the key focus point of our whole product portfolio, because the Mark 137 is what created the success of the company. So that this was the first product in its size that made us go global because of its size. So a 28-footer around the world is still considered a small boat. Even in some countries, it's considered a big boat, just depends on how you vote. But going into US, going into Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, the Balearics, the 37-foot platform is really a great platform because it's still nimble in size. It's a good value point in pricing. So this is by far the most critical boat we have to offer our let's say, next generation products out in the portfolio. So I mentioned already, we used twice the time to redevelop the 37 and twice the money to do it. Even if we knew already how to make the concept, we didn't want to change the concept or the core values of the product, but we just made it better in every inch of the product, so that every customer going abroad on board the product, they will go, aha, there is really something changed on it. So that is for us number one. Well, there will be also, of course, something interesting in the future, but the 37 now is our main focus. 28 is selling really, really good also, but there will be more interesting coming.
There is somebody here that's commented saying that he has just bought a 28 cabin today.
Cool. Congratulations.
Great. So, congratulations.
Excellent. Excellent. That's excellent.
So I wanted to, talking about the 2020 lineup and the 37 in particular, I've noticed that there are a couple of little changes in the hull, a little bit of camber, etc. So has that made any more efficiencies? I know that certainly on the Brabus side of things with the larger Verados, the performance of that hull, I know for the performance category, for the performance buy, is phenomenal for a boat of that size and beam and everything that she's got on board. You wouldn't think that it was a 60-plus knot boat, even with two Mercuries on the back.
Yeah. So all of this more or less comes down to the basic concept of an Axopar. So we were talking earlier about the rigid inflatable boats, and the key core values is that all Axopars share the same DNA, so that we always make the boats with a low center of gravity. We always take a special care of the putting the center of mass or distributing the mass, the weight of the boat evenly on the boat, so that it always handles neutrally. And doing this already helps us a lot against many of the competitors. It's very hard for us to do it because the hull is a non-compromise approach. So we can't make the hull wider if we want to have a toilet in front. We can't make the silhouette of the boat higher if we want standing height in the front cabin. Something needs to give. But working in this, we really worked hard on creating the perfect, I would say, a boat is always a compromise. If you make a speedboat, it always built only around the speed. But with the Brabus and the Axopar, the 37s, 28s, we wanted to have a versatile platform, but still have the core value of the hull and the handling. And that was the one thing going into the Mark 1s. And now with the Mark 2, which is actually quite interesting, we have on the Mark 2 average fuel consumption in cruising. With a twin 300 or 350 Verado, we're doing something around 2.9 liters per nautical mile on a cabin boat. Now with the new, that's already good because you have a lot of inboard diesel 32-foot boats that utilize 3.5 liters per nautical mile on a heavy diesel inboard engine and around 3. So for us to make this efficiency already on an outboard petrol-powered engine is already considered by many something really strange. And it all comes down from the basic principle that we need to make the boat from beginning made for an outboard. There are some competitors now who make inboard diesel heavy boats. They just leave the engine off, they build a bracket, and they try to fit outboard on it and say, that's it. And it never works that way because you have already compromised the hull by making it into an inboard diesel engine. So you cannot utilize the maximum effect of hydrodynamics making it into an outboard. And that is what we've done from the beginning. So with the new 37 Revolution, we have, together with the new generation of Mercury engines, been able to lower even 30% of fuel consumption, which is huge. So just to give you an example, the Mark 137, again, with the 300 to 350, we're doing a range of 220 nautical miles. With the same amount of fuel, depending on specification and weight of the new 37 Revolution, we can do 300 nautical miles of range. That is a huge increase. And also what we have changed with the hull is that we have also made a much wider cruising speed range, so that many of the competitors have usually a sweet spot where they have the lowest fuel consumption, and that's usually 3 to 4 knots. If you go higher, the fuel consumption goes up. If you go lower, the fuel consumption goes up. But we have created more like a plateau. So any speed between 24 knots following 36 knots, we still almost have the same fuel consumption per nautical mile. And going to 40 knots, we have a small increase. Then after 40 knots, yes, then physics all in. But the steps, the efficiency of the steps, together with the new Mercury V8 engines with the ARO, so the advanced range optimization system they have on the engines, with all their development work, we were together able to lower fuel consumption on the 37 with up to 30%. And that's really something huge, because again, boating is one thing about the price of buying a boat, but it's also running the boat that is critical.
Yeah, and your innovation has been awarded as well. You got the Red Dot Winner Award. Can you talk a little bit about the awards for Axopar? Here's a shot.
Yeah, or actually, the latest award was not for the Axopar. This was for the great team effort we've been doing together with our design agency here in Helsinki, and then together with Brabus, that we won the 2020 Red Dot Award in the category of product design, which is really something extraordinary in that sense, because it's one of the most coveted design awards in the world. It's very highly competitive. So we have, I think, 5,600 applicants of big industry competitors all scrambling for the award. So that's really heartwarming for us to be able to receive it. And that's a perfect result of the teamwork we've been doing together to evolve the DNA of Axopar into creating this superboat of Brabus Shadow 900.
Well, before we move on to the finding out how you're using the latest technology to be able to develop these boats, the back end, the sort of behind the scenes, which we're going to show people in a second, I want to highlight, we've talked about your partnership with Mercury and the new lightweight V8s as opposed to the older L6 Verado, and the benefits of that partnership, how strong that partnership is. You're also doing some stuff with Simrad, aren't you? Because you've got some...
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the one thing which is really interesting is that we have a new development project that we started together with Simrad, because this more or less was created out of a necessity of our own. We wanted to create better products for our customers, and we wanted to create better user experience for our customers, so that the Brabus Shadow 900 is the textbook example of how cool something can be when, again, two great companies join forces. And we have, together with the Simrad research and development team, been developing a new user interface that is made for Axopar, and that is also made for the very well for the Brabus Marine. And in this case, you actually see 4 screens. So we no longer call this a helm, we call this a glass bridge. And what we've also been able to do with the collaboration of Simrad is that we have eliminated all the intimidating factors on the dashboard. We call it the Clean Helm project. So more or less, modern car owner today is used to see more or less 3 things ahead of him. One information display, a steering wheel, and a gear selector knob, and that's it. And for us, we wanted to create the same sensation, whether he's an Axopar owner or whether he's a Brabus Shadow owner, exactly the same experience. So before, the knowledge of a skipper was measured how many gauges and different apparatus he was able to handle on his helm. And for us to be able to create more interesting, create an opportunity for new boaters, actually, we wanted to simplify this and take away the complexity of driving the boats. And the really interesting thing is, one, the visual appearance we do on this with the Simrad, but also the next generation of user interfacing, which we have already launched in Düsseldorf, version 1.0, which is already a user interface where we can actually guide and help the owners to become better boaters. We provide checklists so that they have everything on board before they go. We have our own inboard diagnostic, more or less checking everything is okay on the boat, and telling every detail, all of this information on one Axopar's devoted screen. So before, you would need to go into Mercury screen to check everything's okay with the Mercury. You needed to go into the plotter to check everything's okay there, and then the different gauges. Now we comprise all this data into one user point. And in the future, which we will launch now in September, is going to be some really interesting stuff in how we take things further and forward, in order to, again, create a new user experience for our boaters on Axopar and Brabus.
So we're going to move forward and show people the back end of this and the development.
Yeah.
So I'll get up a couple of things. I'm going to start with the sketches. So you can talk us through the design process.
Yep.
I'm going to bring up some various different pictures here.
Yeah, you're seeing some pictures more or less meant to be seen, some pictures not meant to be seen. So can neither confirm nor deny, but there could be something in these pictures that would be of interest for future projects. But you can just showcase the pictures, just keep them scrolling, because we send them to you. Yeah, no. This is more or less, yeah, in that sense. But we wanted to showcase the background of our development project. So we have a really great collaboration with our design agency, which was already involved in the projects of the brands we did in the past. So their handwriting follows also with the Axopars, and we have had Jarkko Jämsen and his team, really marine professionals. Jarkko is also well known for creating super yachts. One was the Sitsigi 818 that was launched in Monaco last year in September. So he's a really great guy to have to work with and go through all new innovations, ideas that they get from the super yacht industry. And you can show more pictures about, you have or if you have any more pictures in there, just to showcase what we're doing. But it's really, an interesting process of exchanging ideas with this agency.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show a couple of things here. I'm gonna show so having a look at the sketches. We're gonna show the VR process. So tell people that maybe aren't familiar with virtual reality, because you're using it both in exhibitions, but also
Yes.
for the development side. So while you're talking, I'm just going to flash up various things of behind the scenes at Axopar.
Yeah, that we can do. So for us, virtual reality is #1 developing tool for us now. And we've been using virtual reality since it was more or less made available. And all the technology we have today available enables us to do rapid modeling and rapid conceptualization, so that we don't need to go into wooden mock-ups. We don't need to make any, let's say, measurements or anything. We can just go into a virtual reality world that is scaled 1-to-1. And more or less, if I hit my head on a let's say roof support in virtual reality, that is exactly what will happen on the mock-up. So that the immense amount of detailing and information and the preciseness of the virtual reality really helps us to do rapid development of new products before we even go into the mock-up phase, of course. And then, of course, also utilizing it as a really great sales tool. There were some pictures from the dealer days where we just showcase for customers how we can modify different configurations or options on the boat. And let's say if we have had, Canada was a perfect example. We had the Canada Boat Show in February. Unfortunately, because of the world premiere in January, we could only supply them one cross cabin. They took the VR set, they set it up so the customer could walk on a cross cabin, get the feel of it, then walk out of the boat, set themselves into the VR world and feel how it would feel one-on-one to walk on a sandtop, for example, how the aft cabin would look and feel like if you would equip that boat with an aft cabin. So it's a great sales tool, and we're also going to utilize this way more. So you will see this. If Cannes Boat Show is done this year, you will see a lot of work with us with virtual reality, and you will see the next steps of how we utilize this in our sales process. But for us now, undistributable, king tool for us to use for development.
Well, I'm going to show a couple of slides here which show your mock-up process. So you use this obviously in conjunction with VR.
Yes.
So we've got a bow here in the wood making shop.
Yes.
We've got your discussions going on intently. So we've got your R&D team here.
Yes. So more or less, we invite a lot of dealers all around the world to join into the development of our projects, to get their own knowledge and expertise on how they see their customers want to utilize the boats, and for us to be able to provide a better experience and a well thought out product for our users. So wooden mock-ups, there is no substitute for it. When it comes down for us that we need to get into a physical product, we do a wooden mock-up. It's not pretty, but it exactly tells you the things you want to know. So height, levels, seating comfort, angles, ergonomics is very important. So even if we can verify ergonomics, steering, helm positions, things like this on a VR, all is always done by a wooden mock-up in order to just make us reassured that the things we see in virtual reality works in real life. So this is a perfect example. So more or less 37 revolution, we raised the floor, we lowered the dashboard, we made the shape of the bow lower so that if you have a short person behind the helm, he or she can actually see much better over the bow at any speed, even at 15 knots, where the boat should go in its worst. So that the skipper behind the wheel never loses the horizon or the visual, let's say, reference points of the horizon. So all of this comes from the going to virtual reality, back to the mock-up, changing virtual reality, then doing the change again, and doing rapid modeling. So we are CNC milling a lot of componentry. Here you see the next generation of multifunction steering wheel that we will soon launch on the Axopar. You already see this product on the Shadow 900. So these are the things we do to get the touch and feel and detailing. And we can show you everything, but I just wanted to show you something that we do, because this still gives you an idea that we are not just some old bloke sitting behind a computer and thinking, yeah, this is good enough, let's do it. It's really devoted time and effort and meetings over and over again, and just exchange of ideas in order to get the result that we want to. We're not perfect, we're not doing it the best way, but we are damn sure that we try to do it to the best of our efforts to create a new innovative product.
Do you find that the VR gives you a great experience in being able to make the design process really efficient? Have you found that there have been experiences where maybe you've thought something on paper will really work, you've put the headset on and you've gone, wow, that detox.
Absolutely. One key that I want to use the VR for is the visuality. So that one is when you're on board, how well do you have 360 vision around? Then, of course, also what we can look, even in VR, we can actually see how our hull is working. So we're also doing quite extensive CFD, and we're also doing some really extensive FEM calculations. So it's not just, making maybe this will work, but we really have supercomputers making the calculations, and we have some really talented guys in our teams that actually make up really, innovative ways of measuring efficiency on twin-step hulls, almost to the grade that we would need to rewrite a few books written in the 70s about twin steps and their efficiency, just because of the information we're now getting the last years. I know that the super performance boat manufacturers have been doing this for years, but we really try to utilize this knowledge and information in creating still a product that anybody can use any day of the week with any skill set of boating and still feel safe and comfortable behind the steering wheel.
And also, to be fair, the vast majority of performance hulls are an iteration of a Don Arano cigarette deep V, and then they've been stepped, and the traditional American way of making a boat more high performance is I'll just stick loads more power in it. And you can tell that your boat is designed from the ground up to be a performing boat, but be efficient and be safe. And there's a guy here called Simon Lloyd who's just commented saying that he's actually moving from a Donzi, so a Don Arano
cool
fast boat, so that's going to be capable of 90 mile an hour, to an Axopar, because he wants the utility, he wants the weather protection, and he says also he needs 2 450Rs in his life. Which,
well, there we have the Brabus Shadow 900 product for him, perfectly suited. So,
you can flash up a couple of other photos. So, in your design process, we've got the sketches. Then you go into the VR and the modeling. But you've also got, obviously, your feedback of your management team, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is, as I mentioned in the beginning, any successful company can never run on one person alone. So you always need a devoted team behind it, and you need devoted OEMs, and you need devoted subcontractors and suppliers for us. And people that have been, it's very simple, basic philosophy. If you like a person, things will happen. If you feel that something is off, or they want to utilize you for something, then usually the collaborations don't work out. But this is, the management team, everybody we have on board, Jarkko especially, new innovative ideas, which still, of course, we go crazy with ideas and we go crazy with concept. But at the same time, we always need to understand that not everything is achievable and not everything is doable. But we really try to pinpoint the cherries out of all the different concepts into how can we create a product that is innovative, fun, and at the same time affordable and safe to use. So management team, huge effort, huge asset to us, because the management team is still, they are the everyday people contacting and being in touch with our OEMs, our suppliers, their new technologies, their new manufacturing methods. They are in contact with our dealers about how their customers are using the boats, how the trends are changing, how people are changing the usage of their boats. One really clear statement, for example, is just the adventure. We have the adventure team on the Axopar, which we more or less, it hasn't happened by accident. It's just that the owners of an Axopar is no longer utilizing the boat solely for the boating experience itself. They are actually utilizing the boat to get them to places they have not been able to go before, to experience new stuff. For example, going to remote islands and doing cliff climbing on an island which is inaccessible by a car, or taking mountain bikes on roof racks with them, or kayaks with roof racks in them, going into places where you actually can't drive a boat because it's so shallow and rocky, but the nature is beautiful. You're taking your hiking shoes, tents, whatever, and you do one-day hikes. You leave the boat out in an anchor or a harbor, and you hike up a mountain. You stay one night at the mountain, loving the view, the hike, and going down to the boat again. So it's like a new usage and a new user experience on our boats.
Well, it's fascinating to see all of the behind the scenes of Axopar. How have you dealt with, obviously, this pandemic? Because a business of your size, the volume of boats you're putting out, the production, and the scale of the operation.
Yeah, that's true.
It's going to be surely it's been affected, or no?
It's been, so let's say when we really became aware of what will be ahead of us. So I would say the whole management team, everybody in our company went into, let's say, I wouldn't call it a crisis mode, but everybody went into emergency check mode. So that the first 2 weeks, all we did was just analyze what are our strong points, what are our weak points, what could be affected in terms of our business, cash flow, financial status, production, anything. And more or less doing this revision, we ended up with one really simple solution. We need to buy more stuff for our boats. So we ended up in making a huge investment and buying materials from our OEMs and our subcontractors in order to be able to create and build more boats. Because this was one key unit. We're a high volume manufacturer. So just to give you an idea, 637s goes out the factory every 5 working days. So 1.2 boats every day needs to leave the factory, with even more 28s following. So it's a high volume production. So we just ended up investing some millions in stock, because we still, through extensive collaboration with our dealers, we knew that all customer ordered boats were people still wanted their boats, whatever the situation was. And we actually even changed in a way that we changed demo boats and press boats for consumer sold boats, just to make sure that they get their boats on time. Just to give you an example of how the industry is affected, now we have subcontractors that are not allowed even to go to their warehouse at the moment. So even if they would have parts ready, they can't even ship the parts because they are not allowed to go to the warehouse. Secondly, we can produce the boats on time. We can actually build some boats ahead of time because we swapped around production order. But shipping our boats, for example, for the US, there is only 2 Ro-Ro boats leaving Europe in a month for US at the moment. 2, because the heavy car industry is not exporting cars anymore to US. So these are the things we need to take in consideration when this happened. But for us, was finding alternative ways of shipping our boats, close collaboration with our customers that they still want their boats because still life goes on. It's a tragedy that happens it's a global pandemic, but people still want to be around their family, and the boat is the perfect solution because you have as much freedom as you want on a boat with the nature, the beautiful nature around you. So we actually see a strong movement towards increased demand for Axopar boats because of this, because we've been able to create from the very beginning, the core values since 2014, to create a valuable product that has something that the competitors can't offer, and the diversity and flexibility of the products, and also in the same to have the value point that they want our products and they end up buying our products. We even have customers that have been looking at bigger yachts, Maybe they postpone the bigger yacht for a year or two, maybe, but they end up buying a new 37 Revolution because they still want to be out on the water. So we are at full capacity at the moment. We are producing even more boats than we had scheduled in our production schedule since beginning. And at the moment, we are just trying to see how can we create more boats in our OEM factories. So it's really, we have really been swimming against the stream with the pandemic at the moment. Right decisions made at the right time, and also by the devotion and the love of our customers that they still want to have their products, which has warmed our hearts dearly.
You've said also that you've had, when we've chatted in the past about super yacht customers, etc., that maybe are slowing down their orders of their super yacht, but they're still wanting the 7.
Yes, absolutely. So that is one thing we see with we have a lot of dealers that have big super yacht dealerships or just flybridge boat dealerships, and we see that many of these many customers don't feel comfortable maybe paying 1-2 million euros on a boat at this moment, but paying 300,000 or 250,000 euros for a 37 Revolution, that is still something that they are ready to do for their family to be able to get out on the water still, but not maybe splashing out the big investment at this time. So that's absolutely one thing we see. So
what does 2021 have in store? If we don't know what's in play for and these things, and obviously, so looking to the next 12 months, can you give us a little insight into some things from Axopar?
Yeah, well, we can't tell too much, but there will be some interesting developments going lower down in our range and going higher up in our range. So we have already started making some rumors about a 22-ish something boat. The rumors, we can probably now say that, yes, there will be something like this happening, but it's still going to be 100% core Axopar product. So all the product benefits, the functionality, the value point, the drivability, the seaworthiness, everything we knowledge, all the knowledge we've used from all the previous models is now moved into the 22 platform, so that there is going to be some really interesting development in this for people to be able to have an affordable, trailerable boat that we also have the ability to ship anywhere around the world in a very cost-effective way, which is also one unique point, all coming to engineering and cost of producing the product, which we invest much more money in to be able to do that, but people will see this in a while. Also, what we will do, we will also launch let's say a collaboration with one leading brand, industry brand of let's say, of global scale in that sense. More about that later. And yes, there will be also a bigger boat coming out. We know that there is some old renderings of an older 46-footer running somewhere around. We can say that it's going to be something spectacular that will be coming out, but that is, let's say, due to all the heavy investment we're doing now in ramping up production with the 37, doing the 22. There will be the bigger boat, but it's not going to be really that expected in the short future. But some information will be also revealed of this in fall boat shows. So keep tuned.
Yeah, good. Well, Jan, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you for the last sort of hour and 20 minutes. We've had people.
Yeah, I think we ran a bit over time.
Right. We've had people from Australia, America, all across Europe, some even from Iceland. So we've really had a real international audience wanting to learn about everything behind the scenes at Axopar.
Really nice.
It's been great to have your time and learn more and see behind the scenes.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for having me again. So let's stay in touch. There will be some interesting developments coming.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching Jan and learning about Axopar and engaging with our PBRTV live sessions. As I say, we've been broadcasting on Facebook, on YouTube, on our LinkedIn, and this will also be shortly up on our Instagram TV. Tomorrow also we are streaming again at 5 p.m. with Paul Glatzel doing our tuition. This week we're going to be talking about navigation, learning how to create a passage plan and voyage. So if you're new to boating, then do check that one out too. Also, because we're keeping boating alive through this pandemic, please make sure that if you haven't been able to get to a shop safely to pick up a printed copy of Powerboat and Rib magazine, that we are offering a free digital subscription through our website. So jump on there and you'll be able to access PBR there. So Jan, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and thank you everyone for tuning in. See you soon.